Call to order at 3:05. Start the PRT meeting. We have three of the five members, so full quorum. And visitors, Becky Frank is listening in. Start the meeting. I'd like to advance to look at the agenda the minutes from last week. I'm sorry, agenda coming forward. If there's anything anyone needs to add to this, thought it was very thorough. Yeah, Nancy, you and Scott have done a great job with that, or Nate have done a great job with that. Folks, want to begin? Nate, did you add these pictures?
I did.
Yeah, good. Good view in the middle there of the tumble down nature of the wall on the lake. Has anyone been able to talk to Tom from Water on Mars about the condition of the spillway?
Yes.
Yeah, I did. I talked to Tom today also.
Oh, good. Is the spillway stable as it is, or is this considered a stopgap repair, the rubber gaskets and similar?
So it's my understanding, and Dawn, please supplement if or let me know if you have a different understanding. The spillway component of the project would actually end up being modified to include that moving stream feature for play. It's one of the components of the grant application for that phase one. To me, when I'm looking at this particular park and went and took a look at it with it, being capped over and that being the open area on the ice where the water's moving through, it was the area where I had the most safety concerns at the lake, and so was happy to find out that that was something that was considered in the planning of this project, just to not only improve the appearance of it, but also to I think enhance safety.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that grill, that movable grill, was the thing that probably drove a lot of that. It does look a little dicey.
It's Catherine. Trustee Guthrie just got here, and she is now zooming in with me.
Oh, good.
So Dawn, this is Nancy. Was part of the spillway part of what we were concentrating on with phase one, or was it more? Yeah, I was thinking that the spillway was sort of going to be a phase two.
Would you like to give me would you like for me to give an overview where we are today?
Yes, please.
That's perfect. Yeah.
Okay. So let me start with that CDBC grant. In phase one, it pointed out four main things: a concrete pathway, a fishing pier, an outlet stream, and playground equipment. When it went up for bid, we've got a little wiggle room on how we wanted to construct that, according to Becky Frank, and the parameters for phase one on the RFP was the installation of a fishing pier, 200 feet of concrete wall on actually it's the east side of the lake, or the hotel street side of the lake, and fabrication and installation of stainless steel handrails on the fishing pier. There were alternatives, an outlet stream, and also another pathway from the Lake Street side of the lake to the fishing pier. And there was also the reinforced drainage pipe to stabilize outlet. So, yes.
If I can, just a little bit, and the reason that we organized it that way with the add alternatives was just because the nature of this project starting and stopping a couple of times, we realized that there was probably going to be some changes in project cost. So being able to do that with the add alternatives ensured that we're able to at least meet the minimum requirements of the grant of this project, which are essentially the pier itself and then the paved area from the parking lot to the pier, or the pathway. And then, with the budgetary considerations, if it works, then we are able to complete the other components.
Yes. So it's been 1 week, and we have done a lot of work and really put something together that is more informative, because we really didn't have the sketch to go by until last Wednesday when Nate found it in a errant file. So we went from there to what we have today, and I think it's very useful in being able to talk to the contractors in developing the concept for the improvements that the community wants. So Nate, can we go to page 2? So this is we can go through this pretty quick, but this is an existing blueprint of the lake with improvements, added improvements. And actually this was featured by Dick Bratton. Next page. So this is a photograph, aerial satellite photograph with the overlay of Dick's drawing, and you can see that it's very close to, it's very true to life as to his measurements and layout. So go to number 3. And so this is what we at our last meeting wanted to focus in on developing for phase 1. And you can see the grayed out area is the new sidewalk that leads up to the yellow platform, which is the fishing pier. And we called out a 16 by 12 fishing pier. Next, please. Here's an overview with a digital image that we constructed.
It's a little different orientation than the previous one, right?
Yes.
Okay.
It's like it's true north, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see the new sidewalk. You can also see an area that's grayed out for a future, a future project area. That would be the outlet for the lake. And then going on down, we extended the sidewalk and the new wall. But as we were gathering this information to construct this digital image, it became apparent that you can see in the red box, there's a terraced, add alternative terraced retaining wall. I we considered that kind of a priority in that it literally protects any work that we do on that retaining wall, be it that a storm comes and buries the whole project again. So that's one thing that we should consider as an ad alternative for the future. Any questions on that slide?
Yeah, Don, are the trees, did those come from the satellite photograph?
I believe so.
Okay, I know there's a couple in there. I didn't know exactly how they sat in. There's probably, you'd probably need to add some soil to that area to, get any kind of grass growing, but that's a small consideration. I just wanted to make sure that we had, reasonable vegetation.
I'm glad you mentioned the trees, because there is one important tree that is on the Ute Pass side of the picture. If you go down to the bottom, there's a very large fir tree that actually extends its root system into the current pathway. So you'll see on another slide where we've actually redirected the wall inward towards the center of the lake, so it would allow at least 6 feet between the wall and the tree.
Okay, good. And in this picture, the fishing pier is ADA compliant, but it's not a fully concreted structure. It's a wooden structure on concrete base.
Yes.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Well, obviously, when we look at it closer, you can see it's much more eye appealing than just a cement slab that's cantilevered off the wall. So
I do have a couple of concerns with that. Mainly the size, and then having it be put into, with on the footers, which I assume will have to probably be engineered. We did not put funding in this project for that engineering, nor did we have any consideration towards any soil testing that would need to occur. So I'm concerned that might be a constraint.
noted.
Mhm.
We go into the next
Also,
slide.
the water flow,
Oh,
What's
and also the water flow.
the flow of water would be affected by that too.
I'm sorry, the flow of water.
Yes, would be affected by a structure in the water like that. I mean, even the bridge causes problems over at Gazebo Island.
Okay.
And yeah,
Go to the next slide, please. This is a side view of the proposed fishing platform. I want to make note in these digital images. I was always able to spend just a couple, 3 hours with Ron Gans, the architect, who developed these. And so we really didn't have time to talk about specific details about such as the shoreline and that sort of thing. So what I want you to take from the image is the eye peel of a wooden platform. This also shows multiple small piers. I think that the final product, if it was chosen, would certainly get by with 2 larger piers, and then it's cantilevered off the beams.
Mhm.
But you can see that the railing is ADA compliant. It's a 30-inch high rail as opposed to 42-inch high rail. And there's no guidelines that it says that it has to be stainless steel as opposed to wood or fiber.
Okay.
Next one, please.
Yeah, Don, can you just to clarify, would this plan replace the parking area, which is currently asphalt, I believe? with the stamped concrete, or does the stamped concrete come off of that area?
The stamped concrete comes off the parking.
Okay, good. So it's uses as little as possible, but it gives you a good rolling, a walkable area.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Next slide, please. This is the same kind of digital image. It just gives you a forward view. The next one, please. This is a rear profile.
Hey, Don, one question.
Yes.
You have like treated wood versus the Trex. Is that a cost issue or just aesthetic issue or I don't know, you know, like our Trex deck out here is supposed to last like 30 years. I don't know how often the wood needs to be treated.
Yeah, I did ask for the Trex, but it was just a small detail that was overlooked when we were closing that. So
The 30-year rating on Trex is appropriate for sea level operations. I'm familiar with some Trex decks in Breckenridge area, a little higher altitude than us, that do not do well.
Don, were you guys, as part of this exercise, were you able to do any cost analysis of these components?
no, we just have not had the time. I mean, to put this together in a week's time I've never done anything like that.
Yeah.
This is really kind of backing into a project. I'm used to having all of these engineered things all up front, but you know, we're just
Exactly.
doing the best we can with what we have.
Exactly. So I definitely appreciate these. I wish that we would have had these at the beginning when we submitted the grant, along with those cost estimates, because I think that it could have definitely impacted the outcome. I think that now we're kind of in a situation where this project has stopped and started and stopped and started a couple of times. And we have an approaching deadline of when this needs to be complete, which is, you know, why we got it out in front of the RFP put out so quickly, because, you know, we will have a small project window in order to comply with our November 9th deadline of having the project complete. So I feel like there's probably an even larger component of planning that needs to occur with the PRT, that will keep us in the future from putting the cart before the horse and coming in from the back end, like you said, versus having all this stuff prepared at the beginning. I do think that we have some not only time constraints, but also some budgetary constraints that are going to make this a little bit more challenging to implement these components. And I, you know, hope that you'll be willing to help review the bids when they come in and evaluate which best meets the goal of the grant.
Certainly. I had a meeting with Tom Hughes. I understand that he's interested in bidding on the product. So I wanted to run what you're looking at by him as well.
Okay.
And he seemed very receptive. He certainly thought that the wood deck was more eye-appealing than the concrete that was pictured, you know, in that original sketch.
Okay, perfect. I didn't want to have the committee feel like this ends up being the final product. It rather than a recommendation of some hoped for components to be added.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Sorry if I insinuated otherwise.
Perfect.
Can we go on to the next slide, please? This was a deck that that, you know, was inspired the the whole image that you see in the digital picture. Very nice. Next.
Yeah. Where is that?
What?
Where is that deck?
It's in my backyard. This is just a slide that's showing the ADA requirements for handicapped railings, and some interesting features like, it should be set back a minimum of 12 inches from the edge of the deck. The lower rail is higher than a minimum of 9 inches than regular railings. So just some information. Next slide, please. Now, we weren't able to put this in the digital image, but this would be, in my view, an ideal shoreline for the lake. And instead of seeing, like the yellow flowers on the left side of the picture, that would actually be the sidewalk. But you can see that that's very eye appealing. One other feature I wanted to mention was the use of rocks that had a platform that were flat on top, as opposed to a potato rock. Potato rocks, children have a tendency to get up on, try to climb up on, and very easy to slide off of. But that was kind of the impression that would be consistent with the rest of the shoreline.
Mhm. Don, those rocks would sit on top of a concrete retaining wall, right?
Yes, actually, I'm going to propose a shot creek wall, which would actually probably be cheaper than another formed wall. And
okay.
It has a lot of advantages, is that there's no forms, there's no backfilling, and you can make a contoured shoreline much easier than you can with forms or prefab walls. So these rocks that you would see would actually be married into the Shot Creek wall below it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next slide.
Okay.
And this is obviously, it's some pie in the sky, but nevertheless, if you're planning, you got to have some forethought. I thought that would be great to have, a platform rock that would protrude into the lake for fishing and just for better enjoyment off the sidewalk itself. And this would be accomplished, I would recommend, by a stoop, a concrete stoop that's built underneath it to hold it in place. Because I've studied these pictures of the lake when it was drained, and I can see from, in the past 20 years, how they've tried to build the shore up with rocks, how they eventually make their way to the bottom of the lake, just because of the sloughing off of the shore. So if we did something like that, I'd surely recommend a concrete stoop under it to keep it in place so it never moves.
Okay. And that concrete stoop probably would be, if you're building that with shotcrete, that would have to be done when the lake is partially drained, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Next, please. This is just the sidewalk that we showed with a print in it, and it's a print that's we'd want to find something that was very similar to what's been used in the past there in Green Mountain Falls, and particularly the lake, and that's the pink flagstone. So that's a good, very close a very close picture of what we could actually do there on the sidewalk, is just have it, instead of just having plain concrete. Next one. This is a picture of a shoreline that's been shot creeked, and the other things that you see there are called ground staples, and they're basically what we used to call dead men, that they just keep the wall from pulling away from the bank like the current wall has done. Next. That's just a picture of a stoop in a different application, but certainly those were just platforms that you would set boulders on, and so that they would never move and they'd be safe to climb on. Next. Okay, this is just going back to slide 5, where we're recommending a retaining wall up there on Ute Avenue. This is something that I selected that would be relatively cheap. This particular one is 2 feet high, 2 feet thick, and 6 feet wide, 6 feet long. Next slide. And it also comes with a foundation that it sets in, and also a cap, so it has a nice finish on the top. The next slide. And this is basically the material that we would want to see on the wall that would replicate what has been there and what's still there at the lake, the flagstone granite, that pink flagstone granite. And I think that's the last one. So this is just something, ideas that we could throw together in a week that would, we think, greatly enhance, and I say we, it's Ron and I, and also I was working with Tom. He was very receptive to some of these ideas, but we are limited to the money. So, but let me just end by saying this. I've had an opportunity to study some of the history on the lake in the last 20, 25 years, because I was given Dick Bratton's file. And so I was able to go through and see pictures and planning past work that has been done on the lake. And I can see time and time again that there was 2 major problems with maintaining the quality of water in the lake, and that was the runoff from the backside of the mountain, and also the sediment, but also just the shore itself sloughing off, because it's mainly granite wash. And so I think that while it costs money, a lot of money, you know, shoring up the bank of the lake is imperative for its long-term use. Otherwise, we'll be draining this thing again in another 5 years and doing the same thing over again. But I think there's some fairly simple steps that we can take to curb the sediment problem. And but we'll save that for another discussion.
Okay. But distilling is down. You're more or less saying we should take this effort, eventually extending it to other parts of the lake, to stabilize the lake so that we don't have to do this on a continuing basis.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's instead of putting a Band-Aid on it and draining it periodically, we're beginning more fundamental fixes.
Yes, I would highly recommend it. I mean, we're going to have the lake drained anyway. So let's just take that small portion of the lake and build what we think will be sustainable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Dawn, I wanted to say I appreciate all your hard work that you've done in the past week. This is a lot to put together in a week. I know you had some help with Ron and everything, and I invited him, but I guess he didn't come today. But
that link, something went wrong with the link.
Uh-oh. Well, wasn't my fault, it's Nate's. No, I'm joking, Nate. But appreciate this, because visuals are so huge. You know, seeing something like this is pretty exciting. And I get where Becky's coming from, that we have limited funds with this grant and we need to pick and choose what can be done. But at least we have a vision, and at least we have something that can be worked forward to, like if we go to phase 2 and we can't get everything done in phase 1. I do have a suggestion that, we have that one sign that's on the west side that were all the park rules that we sort of don't really need anymore. And we were thinking about refurbishing that for either like the town, what's that little building over there? Can't remember the name of it.
Land office.
The land office or for the railroad. I'm thinking in the interim, maybe we have a coming soon. And sort of when we decide on the vision and what we're looking for the ADA pier, maybe we have pictures of what is coming, just to alert the public as to what's happening.
Yeah, if you called it grant proposal being reviewed through 2022 and included a couple of those initial artistic renderings, that might be a very nice information point for people.
I would suggest that we wait until the proposals have come in and have, selected a contractor, just to ensure that whatever we end up putting up down there is actually going to be representative of what goes in, so that it doesn't feel like there's a promise of something that might not be to the community.
I agree, Becky. I wasn't
Yeah.
saying to have it like put in right away, but it's something that after this, it's awarded or whatever, then we can put something out there just to inform the public of what's coming.
That's
But
a really cool
Yeah,
idea.
I agree.
Yeah. Becky, what is the next deadline for is that would be the putting out a request for proposals? When would a approval or decision on a grant have to be made to meet the timeline that are set up?
For this particular phase.
Yeah.
So it would be my hope that the bid closes on the 16th. That in that time in between the 16th and the April 4th board meeting, that we would be able to prepare a draft contract, so that contract and that bid be awarded at that April 4th meeting, positioning us to be able to begin construction as soon as possible. The other component of this is that it will also be needing to interface with the Stilling Basins project, which will go out to bid here shortly. That will also need to have the lake drained. It makes sense to interface those two projects together so that we are only draining it once, hopefully. And then, from there, I would really, I kind of want to propose an idea to you all for future planning. If I don't know if this is a good time. I know it's not on your agenda, but just some food for thought to maybe prepare you for a topic for your next meeting.
Sure.
Okay, so there are planning grants available through GOCO grants, and they're planning and capacity building grants. They will have a deadline of grants for those planning projects in August. I think that it would be a great use of you all's time and your ability to engage the stakeholders within the community to be able to develop a Parks and Rec master plan for the town of Green Mountain Falls, and also to include the trails within it. By doing so, it would position us for additional funding mechanisms outside of the CDBG project, but also additional, competitive grants through GOCO. Those are the lottery proceeds at work. I did talk to our regional representative from GOCO today, and they would be willing to come to your next meeting and kind of talk about this process and what it would look like. But the end result of what a master plan is that it would contain a lot of these concept drawings or architectural renderings that Dawn and Ron had put together, along with cost estimates, to where at least we have a baseline in pursuing future funding of knowing what we need to pursue. Is that something that you all are interested in learning more about and would welcome an opportunity to participate in?
Yeah, I'll jump in. I would definitely like to see something like that. If we've got to carry forward and stabilize this whole, the whole system here.
Mhm.
You know, the lake is a centerpiece of the town, and if we keep band-aiding it, we're not going to be in a good spot.
Right.
Anybody else? Don, Nancy, other thoughts?
I agree. I think that using the PRT talents, because obviously we have some talent on our team, which is pretty impressive. We should go ahead and be part of this. I agree.
Yeah, we've already talked about developing a master plan for the park. In particularly the gazebo park, because that was the first thing on the ballot, but certainly all the parks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the intent of this would be something that would supplement, of course, what's already in the comp plan. But it would help to prioritize the projects. I know that you all can look at projects and know immediately what your priorities are. But I think it'll also, help us put together a long-term plan.
Yeah, it'll be a lot more useful to outside entities if they see, here's what we're doing, here's why it fits together, and and visualize the outcome. Please, if Becky, if you can enlist the GOCO representative to give us that overview, let's make this an item on the next agenda. So if you can let Nancy know how that goes, she'll add that to the agenda for next time, right?
Perfect. Thanks. It'll be a good discussion.
Yeah, great.
So Becky, I have a question. What do you feel is the priority of the three things that were presented? Because I noticed that the repair of the retaining wall was added, and that's probably the most expensive.
Well, and I kind of did look through and went through some of those cost breakdowns. It looks like, let me pull that. Let me see if I can pull up what I want and then share my screen. Do I have the ability to share a screen? I'm not the host.
Yeah, I think once I unshare. Now, let's see.
And this is from the grant that Nate found in the secret file.
I actually wrote this grant, and I can tell you that what I started with was the maximum amount of money that was possible for this grant. And we are not taking a Band-Aid approach to the repairs.
Yeah,
The lake has not been repaired by, we have not had the opportunity until now to have those repairs done well by somebody who knows what they're doing. And and you'll see in the grant that, I listed future phases. Not that, obviously nothing's written in stone, but this is what we could do with this amount of money.
Right.
But I know it doesn't take care of everything in the lake. But you need to keep in mind that this grant is about ADA accessibility. That is why they gave us the money. The fact that we squeezed in some repairs in there is a bonus. Yeah. And the way we did that was because it was integral to the pier. But things like, the playground equipment, that's something that we would like to see in all the parks. The accessibility is something we'd like to see in all the parks. I really wanted to see a concrete walkway that went from end to end. But there just wasn't the funds. So, it was kind of picking and choosing what we could do with the funds that were available. And yet do something that we could build on, that we could continue to extend the park improvements with building on this project. One of the things that has not been hashed out is exactly what playground equipment. I mean, I went in and priced the playground equipment that I thought would be appropriate for that space. But I think we have the opportunity to do some things that to really improve that playground area, maybe make it more integral to the stream that's pretty much adjacent to it. There's that whole area has kind of been neglected, and I think it could really be a great extension of the playground. I don't know if you know what area I'm talking about, but kind of between the park and El Paso, there's a whole greenway with the creek running through it.
Catherine, I'd be more than happy to help you with the playground equipment. I mean, I was early childhood for 25 years and I worked with special needs children. So I have an idea of what is, good for like ADA and special needs.
Yeah, and there's some really good companies, and I don't know if you're aware, I'm an occupational therapist, so it's kind of my job to do this stuff too. And and there's some really great options. So, I think, it's not like we want to tear everything out and necessarily and rebuild, because I know some of that equipment is really well used and loved, so maybe it's a matter of just kind of reorganizing things and adding some pieces. And the beauty of doing a good job with ADA is that it's invisible. It just looks like a great playground or a great facility, just a great park. It doesn't, it's done well. It's not going to look like it was done intentionally. Yeah, it should really, we should be able to integrate things really, really well. I feel bad because, of course, I've had this vision, but I didn't realize that it wasn't something that, like the drawings weren't something that were available. So I apologize for, for having to do so much work in such a short period of time that maybe it wasn't all necessary, but I don't think it was. Certainly it's never a waste of time to look more closely at things, to explore options, and also to continue to look at the bigger picture. The wall that you're talking about, along Ute Pass Avenue, I think that's a bigger conversation than just what's happening at the lake level. I don't think Ute Pass is safe for pedestrians right now. So I think that there's not enough, there's really not a safe path for people at the street level. And so I think that we need to look at that too, not just what's happening at the lake level. Of course, the stilling basins are going to make a huge difference in the sediment. It's not going to cure the problem, but that should make quite a bit of difference. And when I was working on the grant, of course, I wanted to do, circumnavigate the lake, take care of everything all around it. and make it all accessible, but that's just not within the budget. And so, we just kind of picked and choose what we could do. So it doesn't mean that those other areas don't need attention, but it's another phase.
Right.
And something that, like I said, I would really like to see people be able to walk along Ute Pass Avenue safely. And I can't say that I think that's the case right now.
Yeah. So that can see
So
what
my-
I could, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to get back to my question now. Looking at these itemized things, I don't think that platform that I presented was beyond $55,000.
So it's not just the platform, that installation of the ADA compliant fishing pier, if you look at down below, it includes the concrete, and I found out that this is actually the removal of that concrete is this cost. The labor and all these add up to that 54. So it's equipment rental to get those large pieces of concrete out of there. So yeah, it's not that it's 54,700 for just the pier.
Yeah.
It's 54,700 for the.
It would
pier.
help me a great deal if I knew what you saw as a priority, because we were basically down to, the pier, the fishing pier, and the sidewalk to get to the pier.
Mhm.
And then if we just have to do that section of wall underneath the pier, then that's what we do. But whatever we do, it ought to set a standard for the rest of the lake.
I think sinking the pylons in the lake is a major cost.
But that should be covered, that should be part of that too, concrete, isn't it? That was the same, you needed pylons for that, for the pier of that. Was that included in this piece? Did you have an outside contractor or
That's-
engineer look at that?
Yes. And we were not, it was not the pier that you have presented.
No, those were not, that just came with the app. Okay, we weren't able to do any engineering digital image with it. It was just, that's why I wanted to just say this is the look that I saw for a fishing pier instead of a concrete slab with stainless steel rails.
All right, but is the existing phase one geared around a solid concrete wall
I
for
don't know.
the supporting the pier?
No, it's not necessarily solid concrete. In fact, one of the things in the RFP that may be adjusted is the word concrete. Because rock is definitely one of the materials, a major material, and we have the rock, so it's also part of what's going to affect the cost is the fact that we're not going to have to purchase rock.
Mhm.
So it's not necessarily like I think one of the things in the RFP, and I don't have it in front of me, but it says concrete. But that's not necessarily just concrete.
Okay, but the as you noted earlier, the engineering work for drilling piers or putting supports in for the fishing pier into the lake itself, that requires at least a borehole and concrete going, a concrete sonotube or something similar to support it. That's
Right.
included in that concrete estimate, right?
No, pylons were not part of the design.
Okay, so what was the pier how was the pier to be built in this conception? This is a little different than the, than the version that Don hypothesized.
Yeah, it's quite a bit different. I'm not an engineer. I would think it's going to be a combination of rock and concrete.
Okay, is there a detail on this deeper into the proposal?
No. Not that I'm, no.
So what are the estimate must have been built off of some specifics of the design.
I don't know if there's, are there dimensions for the
pier.
for the
no.
pier?
I mean, there are some components that it has to be in compliance with code.
Mhm.
So, that's spacing of the hand railing.
Right. So yeah, and all that was included as far as ADA compliance.
Yeah, but the important expense is going to be how you stabilize the thing and what it's made out of.
Right. And I did not include that detail
Okay.
in the grant, but I'm confident that the cost was covered in the estimate.
Okay.
And I can see about getting more specific, answers to your questions about this.
Yeah.
This
Yeah, I just thought we
engineering.
want to make sure this matches up with the, any modification of the proposal matches up with what existed or how it was configured before.
Right.
The increases in materials costs,
Right.
labor costs just recently over the last couple of years probably will have to be, you want to make sure that it matches up well enough that we wouldn't overspend or overpromise too quickly.
Right. And, it makes sense to me if we have to shift funding, for the funding to shift from, maybe an additional piece of playground equipment to go towards something that's a more permanent structure, like the pier.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly don't want to eliminate the playground equipment, but I think we could probably move some funds around if that was necessary. Because I know what you're saying. I mean, the costs have really changed since we first came up with these numbers. Yeah,
and the ADA compliant pathway that you've spec'd out there is much larger than the, call it phase 1A bit that Don and Ron have put together. Scaling back scaling back that component might also be one of the easier things to do to retain an element of the playground, and so we've got all elements covered, but perhaps in a less perhaps at a smaller and a smaller size.
Right. Yeah, and I agree. As much as I would like to see people be able to cross the park, that does look like a logical place to shift funds. If we need to. Okay.
The other thing that comes into this is as Becky was saying earlier, the Stilling Ponds proposal. We want to make sure we match up with it. We're not matching up with it in terms of construction time, getting it all rolling at the same time when there's only one drainage of the lake.
Right.
I had seen that initial discussion with the town. I didn't realize that the Stilling Ponds project is moving ahead. Is there a final document that describes that plan so that we can, sort of line this up so that and make them mesh together?
There will be very soon. Our consultant is just firming up some final details on it in regards to fire hydrant placement. Was waiting on a little bit of feedback from the fire department and public works just to make sure, but you're exactly right, that is going to have to interface, and you know, not just on a timeline, but also on a physical level as well. So I anticipate that that will be forthcoming, and I don't foresee an issue in aligning those projects.
Okay, would that line up, that next deadline you mentioned is about 2 weeks, is about a week from now or 2 weeks from now? The plan, I thought you said 3/16 as the
For the
plan.
deadline, for the deadline with this project, yes.
Okay. Okay. Reconfiguring sections of this to match up to either version 1A or to mesh with the stilling ponds will be really, really tight. That seems to present us with a problem. We have our next normal meeting of the PRT would be 2 weeks from now, if I'm correct. 1 week.
Actually, Nate, don't we have ours every second week? When do PRT, when is our regularly scheduled meeting? We've had so many meetings, I've forgotten when we really have meetings.
Let me look real quick.
It's the second Wednesday of each month.
The second, which is today, right?
Mhm.
So we wouldn't have a regular scheduled meeting until April. But we could always schedule
Yeah.
a special meeting.
Okay.
The
3/16
fourth
is,
Wednesday is reserved for additional meetings.
These meetings are really difficult for me to make because of my job. Today's an exception. I've, you know, I ducked out early, but we need to make an adjustment.
Yeah, Catherine, the meetings were moved to 3 o'clock with the previous town manager because there wasn't enough staff. And so she was asking which committees could meet in the afternoon versus in the evening because they were getting too stretched with town staff supporting meetings.
Yeah.
So it can be changed. I mean, we haven't talked about it in PRT, but we could, you know, entertain that.
Yeah, it would really help me. I hate to miss them, but you know, at the same time, I don't want to hold anything up.
right, but you're key to this because you have the best knowledge of the prior grant and the particulars. So as I said, meshing that, you know, if we did suggest changes to those details, knowing how those details line up would be really important. If we were to do a meeting, if 3/16 is the planning deadline, we pretty much can't do another meeting in that time. I don't know what we need. Becky, can you describe what we would need if we wanted to suggest modifications to this grant? Would there need to be?
I don't know that there's really an opportunity for too much modification to the grant itself. I think that really what we need to do is move forward, and
Okay.
that the only thing I would suggest is I think that what you'll find is with some of those features that it ends up being that they're going to end up being cost prohibitive. And I mean, I would like to know what they end up, you know, some of those features end up being stamped concrete versus regular concrete, just for, you know, knowledge in planning future projects and knowing what they're going to end up costing. Some of those concrete footers, those components. But I think that that's something that we can also achieve through a planning grant, if we are able to do the master plan grant. And I have a sample of a master plan that I can share with you all too, from previous job. So that you're aware of what those components are and how they kind of outline those projects that are identified by the community and the cost estimates for them. So I think it would be interesting to know what those are, but I would certainly welcome Dawn's participation in evaluating those proposals as they come in when we do the bid opening, to ensure that, you know, if there's opportunity to include some of these, or if any of those contractors' proposals incorporate some of the features that you've identified that you like. I think that's the way to move forward with this one. And then, you know, with future projects, I think that we'll have a lot more opportunity to plan from the beginning instead of planning backwards.
Yeah, and you know, as a grant writer, I this kind of fell into my lap. I didn't initiate the grant, but you know, Diane started and did, you know, a basic draft of sort of the wish list for the ADA accessibility of the lake. And so I worked on, you know, just fleshing out the details and the costs, and then also, you know, developing it into, you know, these different phases, because I really felt like that was part of how we sold the grant proposal, was to say that we're gonna bring all our parks up to ADA compliance. So you can expect to hear from us again. And this particular grant, you know, it's I would expect it to come around, you know, on a regular basis. You know, if somebody else wants to write the grant, that's great. And I wish I had had more consultation at the time. I wasn't, you know, part of this committee, and time was short. So I just jumped on it, and mostly worked with Angie to flesh out the details and make sure we were, you know, in good standing, so that we had a good chance at getting it. So, you know, in the future, I think, you know, our chances are good that we can build on this. Of course, we want to make sure that we do a good job of administering it this time around. That certainly helps. That we do what we say we're going to do, and I have no doubt we'll be able to do that. And but going forward, having a vision is yeah, there's just it's invaluable. And the more inclusive it is, the better. So I think, you know, having this consultation with the GOCO rep would really be valuable going forward. And you know, I'm happy to, you know, to work on the grant if that's something that you want me to do. I'm really excited that Nancy wants to work on the playground. That just I'm really looking forward to that. But any way that I can be of help, and if you have a list of things, you know, like I can get more information about the pier, and I guess I could just share it with you, you know, by email. If you have any other questions, you know, I can get with my consultant and figure out.
Well, I have a question, because, you know, I knew we had $150,000. And so from the very beginning, we knew from the costs and everything that have been rising, we really wanted to focus in on what would satisfy that 88 grant money. And so obviously an ADA pier and a sidewalk to get to the pier. And
Right.
if we eliminate 175 feet of rebuilding a wall, I know from my experience that we're well within $150,000 ballpark to build a sidewalk from, the parking lot to where we positioned the pier and construct a nice looking pier that would match something, with the gazebo and the bridge over there, a wood platform. But that's just my opinion, my professional opinion, that we could satisfy that requirement within 150,000.
By reducing the sidewalk and what was that
No,
about
the
the wall?
retaining, just build a retaining wall that's required to build the pier. And then
Well,
save the rest for later.
the problem with that is that outlet has to be repaired, has to be rebuilt.
Yes.
The outlet is really a huge issue. That, talk about Band-Aids. There's a Band-Aid.
We could spend $150,000 just on the outlet.
We won't have to. That's going to be that is included in this grant.
Do you have the end? I gather then the engineering details or the consultant gave you details that said that they could do the outlet, a stream type outlet within that budget. That was something like $16,000, I think.
That's correct.
So that would probably include retaining wall between the outlet and the pier, because that area needs to be short. That's part of the area that needs to be shorn up.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So that's what we kind of snuck in there.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Because it made no sense to do anything until we get that taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
So
So you would like to see money, part of that 150,000 spent on the drainage, the
the installation of an outlet stream that has moving water feature for.
So that's part of the outlet, but that's not the entire outlet. The stream is not the entire outlet. I mean, it's incorporated into the repair of the outlet.
Okay. Yeah.
But
So
and I also thought that the stream would be a nice feature, just
absolutely.
for the park. But that's not that's just kind of an additional feature of the repair.
Catherine,
Uh-huh.
I went over that in detail with Tom. That discharge, stream discharge, has been rebuilt 3 different times. It's just not going to be practical to try to build something over that again. It'll have to be all torn out, rebuilt.
Well, I don't know how it's going to be repaired. I don't know the specifics of how that's going to be repaired, but I know that what you're saying is absolutely right. That it needs to be, and
there's a floodgate.
It's not a repair job. It's a new build.
Right, because there's a floodgate. That
Right.
They've actually built a brand new floodgate in front of the original, and then they also built another floodgate in front of that one. So there's 3 old floodgates there. The valve is almost inaccessible. It is inaccessible. So yeah, the plot.
Yeah, that's kind of a ridiculous Band-Aid, but that was all that we could do in until now.
okay. So the details of the consultant that you work with has the details of how they would redo that floodgate. Sounds like what the PRT should recommend is going ahead with a, call it version 1A, a cut down version of the proposal that allows for the inflationary effects. To get to the important components, we'd want to review the, we need to review the details to make sure everything fits together and we don't overpromise in the execution of the proposal. I'd hate to see Don have to shoulder that whole load, but I'm not going to be available for another week. Thinking of scheduling a meeting for 2 weeks from today might give us time to pursue some of this. Don, what do you think? Yeah,
Jay, no,
I'm offering to put
we're
some
going
time into
into
it too.
pre-proposal meetings Friday.
Yeah,
We don't have time. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know how
Okay.
we do this.
So
Okay,
I
That's why.
The pre-proposal meeting would be your meeting with Tom to,
Or any potential contractor.
okay. So that's 3/11, 3/12. There's a pre-proposal meeting.
When is that meeting?
Friday.
do have a pre-bid conference on Friday at
3/11.
11 a.m.
Is that virtual?
No, it'll be in person, but I can zoom you in if it makes
I
it
can
easier.
be here.
Okay.
It's here.
It's here.
It's here.
And what I think that we, I think that is an opportunity for contractors to be able to ask these questions of making sure that what they're thinking that they're going to include in their proposals meets the intent of the grant, and that they're able to capture some additional information on the community and the community wants. I also think that on the 16th, I don't know that Dawn, an additional draft of your concept designs ends up being necessary. I think that a way to move forward is to allow the proposals to come in and then have you help me evaluate them to see which components of them meet the goals of the PRT and the community.
I can do that.
Okay. Does that sound?
Yeah, that sounds good because it's moving forward, which is a good thing.
By the way, is that 11 o'clock on Friday?
It is.
Okay, thank you.
Are you available?
I am.
Wonderful.
Well, this is really exciting, and I really like the images that you provided of the pier, and I will see what I can find out about the cost and what we might be able to shift to make that happen.
I'm not promising anything, but it's good to have a community that's networked, and we do have some civil engineers in town that may help us out.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I would definitely, I would really like to know what those costs associated with that, and if additional engineering, how would that impact the timeline as well? This is just, it's one that I feel like we don't have a lot of wiggle room in the timeline to be able to complete this. And unfortunately, another component of this that might make it a little bit more challenging is that Chloe, who had helped, Chloe Lumfrey from
Oh, yeah.
the state, has accepted another position. And so she has a novice
Oh.
replacement
Oh.
currently.
Oh,
Right.
she was our contact for this grant.
She was the GoCo.
No,
contact?
the
CDBG.
CDBG, this
Okay.
particular grant.
Mhm. So, but before Chloe left, she did tell me that we need a win. yeah, that we need this project to be completed on time.
Yeah. Yeah, that, and of course, it's summertime and people want to enjoy the park.
Fortunately, we have another park they can go to.
There's no park like this park.
Yeah, well, and you know, the other thing too is, you know, how's it going to impact gazebo rentals, right? If it's, nobody wants to get married in front of a mud pit.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
we're definitely having to look at, you know, probably blocking off some time, once we have our contractor selected.
Okay. Have the deadlines for the Stilling Basin plan been set up? Was the timeline for that defined yet?
No, not currently. Once I think that this will end up driving a portion of that. And we also have a little bit more flexibility with the Stilling Basins project completion date. So if it ends up, you know, needing to happen post high lake usage season, it can.
Okay.
It's just ideally they would interface.
Okay. Okay. Just kind of wrapping, you know, kind of lining things up then. We need to have, Don will be involved in that review. It would be good if that is available as a Zoom, even if it's a person-to-person meeting, you know, letting other people listen in. I have commitments for Friday, but I could listen in. I'd like to at least be aware of what's going on so that it's not all on Don's shoulders to remember everything and
Well,
keep
and
everything going.
I wonder if rather than a Zoom, if we can't stream it on YouTube.
That would be fine. Whatever's necessary. That would be more straightforward.
Okay, it doesn't really allow you the opportunity to participate, but you would certainly be able to observe.
Yeah, that would be good. We should plan another PRT meeting to follow up in case there are needs to, would we need a PRT meeting to make any recommendations or changes to the proposal?
No, I think that just having Dawn's input as your representative from the PRT will allow that cross communication.
Okay.
And then, you know, once the proposals come in, we'll either have to make a determination that this proposal meets the project goals or it does not.
Okay.
Yeah, Jay, I think we, you know, at that one meeting, we decided that Don was going to be the lead on
Right.
this. And so Don will just give us reports at our PRT meeting. I don't think there's anything else we need to really be involved with as far as a committee. But yeah, we sort of made Don the lead on this, so he's going to be our liaison.
Oh, I'm comfortable with that. I just wanted to know if we needed to act on a report from Don, when we would need to have a supplementary meeting to be ready to put something in front of the Board of Trustees.
Hopefully at your next PRT meeting, we can be celebrating the acceptance of the Board of Trustees award of this project and it getting forward. And then, you know, I understand that this one ends up feeling a little bit clunky just because of timing, because of new faces, because of, you know, me having to get the background on it as well. But I really am appreciative of being in a community that's not apathetic, that wants to be engaged, that wants to be involved and help, you know, with that visioning process. I think that we'll get there, and just appreciate you guys' willingness to go through this process, this first one being clunky with the you know, goal of things being smoother in the future.
Okay, so if that's what the Board of Trustees can accept, we can just go ahead. And Don, if you have any modifications or adjustments just pass them on to the board and go. I'm very
Well,
comfortable
I-
with your work so far.
That's very generous of you to say, Jay. However, you guys have great minds. And I think what we were attempting to do from the very beginning is to help develop the concept of what the community wanted. That way we can convey that to the contractors instead of the contractor saying, now this is what I want. Here, take it or leave it.
Mhm. Yeah.
We're doing our best.
No, I think you've got it. I think you've got it exactly where it needs to be. I just wanted to make sure that we crossed the i's and dotted the t's appropriately. So if that's what the board can accept, go with it. If you just share that with everybody so that we know where we are, we're good.
Well, I will keep you informed, and I'm counting on your input. Okay.
Okay. I will listen in. I would like to listen in on that Zoom meeting if it's possible. And, just everybody will keep on top of stuff.
Nate, can you set us up for a YouTube that day, Friday? Are you available?
Yeah, I'm just thinking that the audio is really dependent on all the microphones and everything and all that in the room. So, yeah, one way or another, we can get it going.
Nate,
Okay.
I know Todd bought a couple new cables today, so hopefully that helps.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, we appreciate his help with that for sure.
Okay.
Did he give his receipt?
Yes, and that.
Okay.
Okay. Quick question. Do we need to scheduling another PRT meeting?
I think
Um,
it'll just be the regular meeting in April, Jay.
Yeah, that would be the second week in April. So that's out like the 13th, right?
Nancy, I think that the originally was once a month, but we left that second meeting in the month open for busy times. So
Yeah. And if after Jesse if he listens to the Zoom and or reads my minutes and once decides that we need to have another meeting, then he'll be the one who pulls that together
Yeah.
and decides that.
That'd be good.
That means you get to adjourn, Jay.
I was waiting. I was expecting some more from you, dude. No, I think it's time. All right, let's adjourn. In an hour and a half, we're closing at 4:28.